Yes, I was in an IED attack. Okay. This happened on 27th of July 2012. And I remember on that day we were supposed to conduct a logistical run for one of our forward operating bases in Fafadoon. So I had briefed my soldiers in the morning, and we had located a center called Shahad. This was approximately 35 kilometers away from Busar, and that was going to be our meeting center. Prior to this, of course, we kept changing our plans just in case anything had leaked, and we were sure that everything was watertight. And so on this particular day, after the briefing, we embarked on our journey now to go and meet the team from Fafadoon so that we could make the logistical exchanges. But this was also doubling up as a patrol.
And you have your soldiers in town?
Yes, I had my soldiers in town.
Right.
So this was a whole convoy of about 9 vehicles, including 2 from the Somali National Army. And so we set off on our journey, and like I'd said, the roads in Somalia were vertical and we were just about to enter a clearing. I heard this loud bang, and the next thing I knew is I could feel the vehicle had been lifted, and this was an armored personnel carrier, weighs several tons. It had been lifted off the ground and we were slammed back onto the ground, and the cabin where I was seated was filled with soot and sand, and you could bet this was actually approximately 2 hours after we had left camp, because we left at around 0800 hours, and the incident was happening at around 10:35 hours.
Okay.
Yes. And so the as the soot and the dust had filled the cabin, my mind first of all raced to my driver, and you know, things are happening lightning quick, because at the same time I'm trying to look over at my driver, I can feel my soldiers disembarking from the vehicle. This is is what we call our ambush drill. Yes, this was the command vehicle, and it was the one that was. So I ask him, Kito, are you okay? And he tells me he's okay. And he looks at me, just one look at me, and he opened the door and joined the other soldiers who were now engaging the Al-Shabaab that were deployed in this particular ambush. So I was later to find out that we had run into an ambush that was reinforced by an convoy, possibly would not know or have knowledge of what was happening at the front. So I reached for the radio and radioed my sergeant. He's called Sergeant Maina. So I radioed Sergeant Maina, who was my second in command, and I briefly described the situation for him. And because now I had the advantage of being at the front, I also instructed him on how to deploy the 2 sections, because I had 1 section with me. So immediately those soldiers disembarked and they joined the other soldiers, and they repulsed the Al-Shabaab. We set up a cordon. However, my commanders on the ground realized that I was not with them. And that is because in war, when you have a situation like that, the first thing you're taught to do is conduct a very quick. So one of the corporals, the section commander, is called Corporal Kaino. Corporal Kaino, after now they had set up what we call an all-round defense, came back to the APC where I was with a private soldier called Langat. So they opened the APC door, and by this time you have to understand, from the injury that I had gotten, I was losing copious amounts of blood, and I could feel my body weakening. And when they opened the door and some of the dust blew out, I sort of lifted my head, and I was met with this gory picture of part of my melted boot and bone and blood smeared on the roof of the APC. I immediately knew that there was a problem. So Kaino looked at my leg, he looked at me, and he asked, what can I do? So I told him we need to stem this blood. He immediately reached for his tourniquet, and they applied the tourniquet around where I was injured, just to first of all stem the blood. The initial plan was for me to be taken out to the APC and laid down next to a tree that was within the perimeter that we had secured, as we called the team 15 minutes out, because we were not going to meet and stay there. And so by my estimation, because we were 5 kilometers short of where we were supposed to meet, I also estimated that this team was 15 minutes out. But as they carried me out of the APC, I assessed that I was still losing quite an amount of blood, and I made a decision that if I was going to lie under that tree, chances are I would not make it back to camp. So I called Sergeant Maina, who was my second in command, gave him instructions about radioing the second team to come and reinforce us. Then I also told the radio operator to radio the tactical headquarters, which was now in Busar, and describe the situation so that they could start organizing for casualty that I was with in the same vehicle. He had suffered some superficial injuries, rushed back to one of the APCs and brought it forward. the very last one. So I was loaded onto the APC with a couple of soldiers, and we took one of the fighting vehicles with the troops from Somali National Army, and we set on our journey back. So essentially I left Sergeant Maina in charge of the troops now, and we had the second team that was coming to reinforce them. And so we started our journey back to Busar.